You're listening to ChainLeak, the crypto news podcast with your host, Joshuwa Roomsberg. Follow and subscribe today.
Welcome to the ChainLeak podcast. I'm your host, Joshuwa Roomsberg. Today's episode is about LogX Network, the world's first consumer super app. Today's guest, Bordia. Welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you so much for having me today, Joshua.
Oh, you're welcome. I appreciate you taking the time. Now, give us a quick introduction to LogX and what you guys are doing for the industry.
Sure. So just to give you some background, LogX is the world's first consumer super app, bringing in, and the mission is very, very simple. We want to bring in the next 100 million consumers on chain with the core infra that we are building to support building of more and more consumer apps on chain.
Okay. Now, how do you envision reaching that goal? 100 million users, that's a lot of people.
Got it. So think of it this way, right? This is my fundamental belief that every chain which is out there, which has succeeded in the past, had one core case, which is Arbitrum had like derivatives, which is GMX. Solana has this meme coin frenzy, and then like bunch of other ecosystems have different frenzies and all. What we are doing with LogX is very simple. Our focus is let us bring the best consumer use cases in crypto known right now, as well as some of the unknown ones which are very, very nascent, onto one ecosystem on LogX. So on day one, we are going to start with derivatives. So derivatives is going to go live on LogX network. After that, we are going to go to the TON ecosystem or sort of, the Telegram mobile app ecosystem, where we can bring in a lot of consumers on board on those ecosystems. So the idea is very simple. Bring in a suite of consumer use cases that consumers can actually use, which make meaningful sense to them, and then just like really leverage them to attract new and newer consumers by going to the avenues on which those consumers are.
Okay. Now, you mentioned TON. What other blockchains do you guys support currently, and what do you plan on supporting in the future?
Got it. So as of now, on day one, when the mainnet goes live in the next few days, we will support 10 blockchains out of the box: Arbitrum, Optimism, Base, Mantle, Linea, and a bunch of these other blockchains in the EVM side of things. In a few days after that, we're going to go live on Bitcoin layer 2s. There are like these amazing Bitcoin layer 2s which are coming up. So we really want to tap there and get our amazing products out there. That's phase 2. After that, of course, as I mentioned, we're going to go live on TON. Then we want to expand on Solana, Starknet. So imagine every blockchain which is out there, where consumers are there, LogX network would be plugged to that particular blockchain. And within a click, you can deposit funds and start using any use case on LogX network, as I said, perps, options, leverage prediction markets, RWAs, and whatnot.
For the derivatives and perps, are there specific blockchains you need to use these services?
So specifically for derivatives, right? You don't need to, be on a specific blockchain. Think of it this way. We will come to you. So imagine if you're on, Bitcoin layer 2, depositing on BTC, playing around with a bunch of things. Or let's say you are on Arbitrum as a degen, doing a bunch of yield farming or whatnot. All you have to do is just connect to LogX, click a button, make a small deposit of $10, $20 or whatever, right? And then start using derivatives. Start using these leverage prediction markets in a gasless way, no MetaMask pop-ups, no wallet pop-ups. It would work and feel like a centralized exchange. So that's what you're sort of building out. You don't need to be,
Let me stop you there. You mentioned gasless transactions. Is this a centralized platform or is everything happening on chain?
100% of it is on chain. And the reason or the way we are able to do this is via our innovative token architecture. So what we're doing is at the back end, let me sort of give you some background. What we're doing is very simple. We're taking a lot of amazing technology that Arbitrum has built out. And Arbitrum is the first highest TVL chain in the EVM ecosystem in terms of layer 2, right? So we're taking the best stack possible from Arbitrum. We're modifying it a bit and saying couple of things. A, the gas fee token would be our native gas fee token, native governance token, which is $LogX. And B,
Okay.
I will subsidize all your gas fees to give you an amazing experience from Treasury so that you don't have to click anything or you don't have to pay gas fees. You don't need to own like random gas tokens. And C, over and above that, we said that every user will have a smart contract wallet from day one with a specific nice nickname to attach to it, right? And because of that, you don't even need to sign transactions. So everything is happening on chain, but we spent a lot of engineering effort at the back end to enable like smart contract wallets, custom gas fee token, then subsidizing the gas fee token from our end to make this entire experience possible on chain. And we reduced the block times from like 5 seconds, 10 seconds, which are there on a lot of chains, to 100 milliseconds, thereby making the transaction feel as fast as a centralized exchange. And it goes through like within a click, you will see the transaction goes through.
Okay. Now, when you were explaining that, I was thinking about, is LogX a application that you would download from an app store? Is it a DApp? You mentioned Ton earlier. Is it a mini application inside Telegram? What do you envision for bringing these users to you guys?
Got it. So think of it this way, right? There are two components to this where we have to innovate, right? And I don't think
Yep.
innovation is possible if you don't do both of them right. Innovation number one is the infra layer. So whatever I mentioned just now is us innovating on the infra layer by saying, well, let's use the best stack possible for the chain. Let's do these account abstraction, gas fee customizations, gas fee subsidizing capabilities. Let's build all of these stacks out. And then over and above this, we are building the app layer, which is, as I mentioned, derivatives. We're going to have the most competitive rates in derivatives ever possible on chain. That's one. Highest amount of liquidity ever possible on chain. That's one. Leverage prediction markets. Again, as I said, like take 20x on like whatever you're doing on poly market with 20x leverage and whatnot. So this is the app layer. Now, how do we distribute it to consumers? It's something where we need to really, really innovate. That is where, as I said, now we own the infra, now we own the app layer. All we have to do is go and attack and get consumers at the right touch point, which means tomorrow this same front end can be deployed by a developer or our own team on Ton. So imagine this entire experience is running on Ton. Imagine this entire experience is running on, let's say, Bera chain or running on Monad. So thereby we are at where we are sort of plugged in where the consumer is, and at the same time, at the same immediate time, the consumer gets all the experiences that we have on the ecosystem. So I think like that's the way we think about it. That's the way the entire product is built out. You be where the consumers are, build the right use cases, and at the core, have the right infra to support these use cases in the best way possible on chain.
When it comes to the Ton aspect, if you built a mini application for LogX, would it only support the Ton network, or would it be able to support multiple networks within that mini app?
So think of it this way. For Ton, my plan is very, very simple, very, very straightforward. Imagine you download the LogX mini app on Ton. All you get is a simple go long, go short, and a ticker. That's it. You don't need to care about like these crazy charts, crazy things, because on phone, right? Like you want to long Bitcoin or you want to short Bitcoin. You don't need to think that much. You don't need like those 100 elements, right? So the moment you click it, you technically need to have some deposits or some money on top, right? Because that's how you're going to like make a real world bet, right? And once you make that bet, once you have that money, of course, that money is going to get logged in the contract before till the point in time you win or lose that bet. So I think like that's the way this is going to be structured. That's the way this entire element is going to be built out. And that's what the core value prop is going to be for ton consumers or like people using like Telegram app in a nutshell.
If a user logs into the application, would they be able to use multiple chains?
Absolutely. So think of it this way, right? What we have done is we have abstracted out the chains by design. So
Let
for
me stop you
you,
there. I'm talking specifically on Telegram. If you guys create a bot for LogX, and I use the bot, would I be limited to TON network, or would I be able to use multiple blockchains tied to that mini application or bot?
Ideally, you would be able to use every blockchain supported by us. We don't limit you
Okay.
on that front. I think the point I was trying to make here is very simple. For you as a consumer, we will be where you are. So you don't have to care about which blockchain we are on. I think that's the point I was trying to make here.
Okay. I'm thinking more as an end user, would I connect a third party wallet to your mini application, and I could have all 17 or whatever amount of blockchains you guys support, and I could have small amounts in each one of them inside this wallet specifically for my LogX account. Is that how it would work? Or would it
Yes,
be
100%.
specifically ton? Okay.
100%. If you have your capital anywhere across any chain, we would support it. We would take it in as collateral to let you have the experience on LogX.
Now, will you guys be helping users create accounts themselves, or will they have to have previous wallets or created on a third party application?
Couple of things. One is if you have a wallet, it's amazing. I think like you'll enjoy our products much more because you've been like routed and you've been like thinking about on-chain experience as like a very, very archaic experience from the past. You will just like teleport yourself to, I don't know, like 20, 30 of on-chain experience with LogX. So that's one. But let's assume there is a case where you don't have a wallet. All you have to do is that come to LogX and use our social sign-in feature. So there what's going to happen is you can use your phone number, you can use your like I don't know your Gmail ID, your Twitter, whatever, to create an account on LogX, and then you can get things started and everything there. So that's one. There, I think we have not announced it yet, but we're partnering up with Privy. That's an amazing company doing this. So their systems and everything is secure. And second, we would also be partnering up with an amazing on-chain service, on-chain off-ramp to on-ramp or on-ramp to off-ramp service, which is a Transact. Again, like they recently partnered up with Sony blockchain, Sonium, and then we'll partner up with them to let you like on-ramp and off-ramp things. So end of the day, net you have the entire full stack experience with you. You don't have to like have a wallet as a mandatory step.
Okay, so you're giving the end users the option to have a centralized wallet or a decentralized wallet?
I don't think the way Privy creates their wallets is centralized because the way they are using the MPC architecture, right? I would say it's something between centralized and decentralized. Like it's slightly debatable because a lot of elements are encrypted. But fundamentally speaking, the key is associated with your phone number.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get at. If a private key or seed phrase is tied to a social media account, email account, I look at that as a centralized situation because you do not have full ownership of them keys.
I think what you're saying is absolutely right, and I agree to it. I think end of the day, people should very much focus on getting a decentralized wallet. But I think like if we have to really do
For
this,
ease
and
of
if
use and bringing new users to the industry, I get it. That is the
yeah,
simplest way to bring new people in.
but we also want to do a lot of education around this, where we want people to have two wallets. Imagine there is this like you know like kind of like your hot wallet, which is like a simple wallet. Enter your phone number, get an OTP, connect, like have $50, $100, whatever it is, like you're okay with risking
Small
on that
amounts, right?
wallet.
Yep.
And then the moment you have larger amounts, you move it to your own wallet. So we'll do all that level of education at our end so that, as I said, our goal is very simple. Bring in users with the most simplest use case, most simplest experience possible. And then after that, they can keep educating themselves and like go to these higher and higher degen use cases.
Yeah, no, I like that a lot because me personally, when I started out in the industry, I was looking for an easier method to save all of these seed phrases or back up my private keys. And in them first steps, if I wasn't fully engulfed in the industry, I don't know how much further I would have dove into the industry. I feel like them are some of the roadblocks for new people. oh, I got to write this 12 words down. What if I lose it? What if my house burns down? I mean, I lose all my money. That don't sound like a good idea. But what you're saying is good, because if you use something like Privy, and I don't know if it's a central entity or however the keys are encrypted and saved, you don't have control of that. But on the flip side, you don't lose that either. So you have vulnerabilities and you have safety on each aspect of that. But I think about, as a more advanced user in the industry, you want to get to a point where you have private keys and you have seed phrases for yourself for larger amounts. You do not want to trust anybody with that, anything over, I'd say, 2 to 5,000. Once you start reaching them kind of amounts, you want a private key to where you have full control of your custody.
I think like there is another angle to this as well, and the angle is very very simple. I What we have to understand is progressive decentralization is probably the best way to let people come in. If you're going to like create these amazing big doors, you need to know like these private keys, you need to X and Y and whatever, right? Consumer is going to get confused. So all we have
Right.
to do is let them come in with a simple footing, let them spend some time. And the most beautiful thing about crypto that we have seen ever and ever and ever again is that smart consumers come in and enthusiastic consumers come in and they self-educate as things move. So I would say like the
Yep.
best part is to give them an access point, and then after that, like they're smart enough, they'll just figure it out as they move along in the journey.
Transition. Now, another thing I'm thinking with using a service like Privy, is there a way to transition that from a social media account wallet to a decentralized, or would you be able to export the private key somehow? I'm not really familiar with Privy.
I think the best way we would recommend users to move is, imagine once the account is created via any third party, you always have like that doubt in your mind. So the best migration would be you make your own MetaMask account, and for free, we are going to allow you to migrate this account to that and migrate all the funds from this to this. I think like that would be the most beautiful solution here, rather than
Yep.
like thinking about like porting this, fixing this, and whatnot. Like you get yourself educated, get yourself I don't know, MetaMask or a Phantom or XYZ account, and then we'll do the hard work for you and make that one-click transfer very much possible.
Yeah, no, that sounds cool. Now, as far as a mobile application, have you guys thought about that yet? Is that anything in the future? Where are we at on that?
So I think I've been thinking about mobile as an avenue for access of LogX for a long, long time. And in my view, I was never able to, find out something which was not centralized in nature. Like look at, for example, Apple, right? Or look at, for example, Google. There is a lot of censorship that can happen. For example, the product cannot go in certain parts of the world. The product cannot go after like without cutting certain fees for certain users and whatnot. What we want is a decentralized avenue of distribution. And that is where, for me, Telegram comes in as a sharp entry point. We want to enter the mobile market with a LogX Telegram mini app. And my bet is very simple. Within the next 6 months, we will acquire 10 million users using that. That's what we want to do. So I think like Telegram is going to be the avenue through which we LogX is going to go mobile. And then the more we scale that experiment, after that we can think about a full-fledged application or a mobile app or something like that.
When you think about the next 1 year to 5 years of building out LogX, what other features could you see adding to the overall super application?
So think of it this way, right? I like every use case which is there on crypto or on chain, which has consumer value, will for sure be there on LogX in the next 5 years. As I said, starting with derivatives, after that leverage prediction markets, after that RWAs, treasury yields, real estate and whatnot, gaming use cases, small simple arcade games, ton mobile expansion, and a bunch of other use cases will come in, like options, binary options, and a bunch of other use cases will come in. But at the core, if you really think about all of this, what we are going to do is we are going to scale these use cases to more esoteric use cases or more eccentric use cases. And what do I mean by that? I mean to say we are going to also innovate on the use case front and bring more and more interesting out of the box use cases, for example, walk to earn, for example, vape to earn, or something like that. As and when these use cases prove their sort of PMF on certain ecosystems, we'll bridge those use cases and bring it to the LogX super app so that users get a 10x better experience than any other ecosystem on day one for these use cases.
Would you consider LogX something similar or different from a decentralized DEX infrastructure?
I think like it's very obvious to compare LogX to a simple DEX out there, and of course like
Okay.
there are amazing DEXs out there. Nothing against them, but in my view, the real competition and the real product to go after is centralized exchanges. So we are going
Okay.
after the centralized exchange business. We're taking a piece of that pie because the infrastructure, as I mentioned, that we have created is gasless, no pop-ups, onboarding retail users on board, bringing millions of retail users on board. So at the core, what we are building is a easy as well as a simple infrastructure for all of our consumers, right? And thereby directly sort of going after the centralized exchange $100 billion business.
Okay. Now, when you look at the similarities between LogX and a centralized exchange versus a decentralized exchange, what do you feel are the key points of similarities and differences?
I think some of the biggest sort of, I would say, similarities is that A, we offer self-custody, which is in my view the biggest value prop of a decentralized exchange. B,
Yep.
everything happens on chain, so it is super transparent. And C, over and above everything else, what really is important that happens with us, similar to a decentralized exchange, is users have control over the protocol, not just the founding team, not just a small set of people. Users get to vote what they want on the protocol, right? That those are
Okay.
like some of the similarities. One element which I fundamentally feel is different from the current DEXs is that the infrastructure we have created, right, which is our essentially our own chain using the Arbiter Orbit stack. Everything, as I said, is gasless, no pop-ups. The speed is like super fast, like a centralized exchange. The experience is very similar to a centralized exchange. The biggest delta I would say that we have over anybody else is that if you use DEXs right now, you would feel like you're in what 2024, the technology is still evolving. But if you use LogX, you would fundamentally feel you have like been moved 5 years ahead in the curve. Maybe you are in 2028, 2029, and that is what the technology feels like. Purely because like the experience is, as I said, so flawless. So I would say like that is by far the biggest difference with a decentralized exchange versus what we are building at LogX.
Okay. Now, I think we talked about it earlier, but I want to circle back on the spot and the trading algorithms that are similar to a DEX. Is the concept a swap or is it a spot market for moving in between tokens?
So think of it this way, right? For derivatives, we're using a very innovative model, which is essentially a solver model. The way it works is very simple. As a trader, you come in, you place your trade, and then there would be a institutional solver. And let's say with time we'll democratize the solver onboarding process, so more people can come in. So there is going to be this institutional solver who's going to come in, and the moment this solver comes in, right, they are going to bridge in all the liquidity from Binance, OKX, Bybit, and KuCoin, and a bunch of these centralized exchanges to the decentralized avenue on LogX in a competitive fashion. So fundamentally, what's going to happen is that all the liquidity on these centralized exchanges is going to come on LogX for derivatives on day one. So that is one, that's the model on which the perps operate. The model on which the spot operates is we're still deliberating the design on this a bit because it's not going to go live on day one. It's going to go live like a month after the launch, right? For
Okay.
Spot, we're thinking the AMM design is still probably the most efficient design out there. And the reason for that is very simple. Because in AMMs, you cannot manufacture the price. The price is defined by a predefined function driven by external markets, thereby making AMMs the most democratized way to launch new tokens, to launch existing tokens pegged to the centralized market. Nobody can like sort of, like play around with you on an AMM. It is what it is. And on our chain, there's going to be no MEV. There's going to be no front running allowable. So that makes AMM the most fair way to have token trading or spot trading. And that's the design we're tinkering with. But again, we're like thinking about like two, three elements and like still finalizing the most efficient architecture out there.
When you think about a platform like Jupiter on Solana and you compare it to KuCoin, a centralized exchange, what are the biggest differences between the two platforms?
So I think like here is the most interesting point. When you talk about Jupiter, it has all of it. Like it has derivatives, it has a spot aggregator. It has recently they launched a meme coin aggregator as well as Launchpad as well. But I think the biggest difference between them and a centralized exchange is that a centralized exchange does not require you to be on Solana only. It's
Okay.
essentially accessible across the board. No matter whichever chain you are, they support it. It's not your job to bridge to that chain, right? So I think like that is where we are bridging the gap. Imagine LogX is Jupiter, but expanded to every chain ecosystem across the board. I think that's what we are building with a better infra, in my view, because again, as I said, the speed is much faster. The execution is gasless. The execution is pop-up less. So fundamentally speaking, what we are building is Jupiter, but scaled across every chain out there in a more scalable fashion, in a highly more liquid fashion compared to anybody else.
Okay, great. That was a great breakdown. Now I have a full envision of what you guys are building out because I use Jupiter often. So you're saying you guys will have the ability to support multiple chains on a decentralized infrastructure similar to Jupiter, but with a better user interface and more features.
Exactly. And on more and more and more chains. So imagine you can think of us as Jupiter scaled across 50 different blockchains.
Okay, great. Now, the infrastructure for the network itself, will you guys have nodes? Are you built on top of another chain? What does that look like?
So the core infra is pretty straightforward, but we've made like a lot of very, very smart changes to it. So initially, when we were deliberating, like what should we pick from the existing stack, we thought Arbitrum seems to be the most battle tested. We were also in touch with the team, very good friends with the Arbitrum team. So we went ahead and partnered with them and used
Okay.
their Arbitrum chain stack to build out LogX. So imagine the code base used to support $10 billion of TVL right now on Arbitrum is the same code base that LogX is using. That's point one. Point number two, we went ahead and we also partnered with a very, very amazing team building out of, New York. It's called Hyperlane for cross-chain messaging. That's what makes us possible to become like Jupiter, but for 50 chains. That's two.
Okay.
Third thing is essentially we used, we've been deliberating and having a lot of conversations with different people, but we are going to partner with Avail for the DA services to make the system super efficient. So that's how the system is built out. And then the core optimizations we have done on top of it is A, gas fee subsidy for all users, B, smart contract wallets so that you don't have to do random pop-ups and whatnot. C, made the gas fees, as I said, the core gas fee token as $logX, which is our governance token. And D, we have made the block time 100 milliseconds so that the speed becomes like crazy fast on chain. So those are the optimizations we have done on chain to make it like super, super scalable for consumers.
Would you say LogX Network is a independent blockchain?
Yes, LogX Network is a layer 2 specifically built using the Arbitrum Orbit stack. But we don't like, like publicizing that a lot because users don't care whether it's a layer 2, layer 1, layer 3 or whatnot. Users care about the experience. And that's why we focus much more on experience. Our focus is to be where users are. Even if it was a layer 3 or layer 1 or whatever, we would still be publicizing, as I said, the core consumer experience that we're delivering.
I think I was thinking more, this isn't just a token aspect. this is an entire network you guys are building out.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
And more speaking about the nodes as well, right? So recently we've been deliberating and having different sort of partnership discussions with Google as well. So we're thinking about like spinning off the node infrastructure in partnership with Google. Again, like none of this is something which is still under discussion. So think of it this way: you would be able to use, let's say, Amazon or Google's cloud services
Yeah.
to build out node infrastructures and spin off node infrastructures or validators on LogX in the future. So that's something that's there in the roadmap to decentralize the network even more. And we are also like sort of working with different parties like Espresso to sort of decentralize the sequencer itself. So there are like a bunch of those elements also happening in the backend. But as I said, our core focus is to publicize our user experience and get those 100 million users on board on LogX.
Is there an opportunity for an individual company to run a LogX node in the future?
Absolutely. As I
Okay.
said, as we decentralize the network more, you should be able to use and run a LogX network node. In fact, $LogX will, which is our native governance token, will secure those nodes. So there would be some sort of, economic value also or utility value also shared with those node operators. But yeah, there would be an opportunity which would come out at the right time for this.
So you're saying there will be incentives to running a node infrastructure yourself?
Absolutely, absolutely,
Okay.
because that's how the network is designed at its very core.
Now, one last thing before we go. Let the listeners know where they can learn more about LogX. Give them your website and social media handles.
So first of all, thank you everyone for tuning in. What I wanted to say was you can learn more about LogX, and I would highly encourage you to learn more about LogX on www.logxlogx.network. So that's our website. That's our official website. Don't use any scam links or whatever. That's one. Second, on the Twitter side of things, you can go to LOGX_trade. That's our official Twitter handle. Right now it has like 250K followers, so do join in and support us in the journey forward.
All right, great. I appreciate your time today. This has been LogX Network, the consumer super app. Thank you for being here, brother.
Thank you so much for having me, Joshua. Have a good one.
The Crypto News Podcast with your host, Joshua Roomsberg. Follow and subscribe today.